Oh yeah, you know what time it is. Got the brand new RX4s in today. This is the Ultra that I'm gonna review first. We're gonna do an overview of all the technical specs, the new features for the 2020 models, as well as run it through the Chronograph in 2 different draw lengths with 5 different arrows as usual. Give you guys a really good idea of what this bow can do, the upgrades they've made, and if it's gonna be the right bow for you. So stick tight, all that and more coming at you in just a sec. Oh yeah. All right guys, so as I mentioned before, this review is gonna be on the RX4 Ultra. I've been reading a lot of forums and stuff, and a lot of people are saying, oh, they didn't change anything, like it's barely any different, but the RX3 was such a successful platform for them that they basically just improved upon that platform. And the changes they made, albeit fairly subtle, I think are actually a really big upgrade. So, getting into the specs of this bow, you know, the Ultra series, just like last year, is still 34 inches axle to axle. This bow is a 6 3/4 inch brace height, so fairly forgiving brace height there. IBO's at 334, so no slouch on speed. The number 2 cam will go from 27 to 30 inches, and then the 3 cam will go from 30 to 32 inches. So for you long draw guys, this is a really good option for you. You know, it's still got a very similar cam as last year, shape-wise, but what they've done is, you may remember last year, so they've always had the rotating module, but last year they had draw stops, holes drilled into the cam here, and so you'd rotate the module to whatever position you wanted, and then you had to unscrew the draw stop and match it. This year, they've actually integrated the draw stop here. Try and focus on that for you. They've integrated the draw stop into the module. What I've noticed that does is it creates a much more solid feeling back wall. If you've watched the Hoyt video, they talk about that. People say, well, how would it do that? Well, basically, when I have this little flat surface here, it's dispersing that pressure point over a more surface area. So you get a more solid feel. This bow, you know, I'm left-handed, this bow is right-handed, but Trent and Chris who work here, we're both shooting this today. It's noticeably quieter than the bow was last year. They said it's a little bit smoother, they think. But the big thing they noticed was that back wall, and then this bow is just, it's got a really good feel to it. This cam system is really, really nice. As usual, Hoyt, you know, you've got the roller guards here, which is a really nice feature, helps string wear. All machined aluminum limb pockets. You know, this is the carbon model. It's coming in at 4.1 pounds. So for a 34-inch bow to only be 4.1 pounds is pretty impressive. But it's a balanced 4.1. So I generally don't like a really light bow. I don't think they hold as well. This bow holds like a rock. You know, they have the dampening system down here with just like last year, with the wider limb pocket and limb on the bottom than the top. So it's a full 1/2 inch wider on the bottom than it is on the top. And what that does is it gets that center of gravity down low, puts your center of mass low, which keeps that bow from wanting to feel top heavy, especially when you have a quiver full of arrows on there. Just a very, very comfortable bow. They do still have the grip here. I think this grip is extremely comfortable. You know, they have this little screw here, and you can take that off and actually shift the grip right or left. It's supposed to aid with tuning. I've moved it all over the place and it still shoots the same hole. So I don't really know what it does. I think more so than helping with tuning, I think depending on a guy's shape of his hand, some guys have these big burly just mitts, paws for hands. You can move that grip out a little bit and you're not gonna get as much contact with the shelf here. So it'll alleviate some torque issues, I think, for some people, which is a pretty cool feature. You know, speed-wise, stayed right about the same. You know, 334, again, that's no slouch. Now, there is a difference in speed in the cams. So today, this is the number 2 cam, so this will go from 27 to 30. I'm gonna shoot it at 30 inches, then I'm gonna put it down to 28 inches and shoot it. If you were to go with the number 3 cam in a 30 inch draw, you're at the shortest end of the draw cycle versus the longest, and there will be about a 12 to 14 feet per second difference, even though it's the same draw length between the 2 and the 3 cam. And that's essentially because you're just under rotating that 3 cam at the shortest position as opposed to getting a full rotation out of the cam in the 2 cam at the longest position. So that's something to keep in mind. The 3 cam will draw a little bit smoother for you, but you are gonna drop significant, well, I wouldn't say significantly, but you're gonna drop a little bit in speed, you know, over 10 feet a second for sure. I did, if you haven't seen it, when I did the review on the RX3 Ultra last year, I tested the difference between the 2 and the 3 cam, and it was like 14 feet. So it's not nothing, but it's not extreme either. You're not dropping 30 feet a second or anything. This particular model is the 70-pound model. You can get this all the way down to a 40-pound, like a 50-pound, 60, 70, and up to an 80-pound model. So for those of you who like to pull 80 pounds, get that speed up even more, you know, you can do that. They come standard with 85% let off. You can get an 80% module though. So for those of you who like lower let off, you can order it with an 80% module. That would probably be the route I would go. Trent has the RX3 from last year with the 80% mods, and it feels really, really good. So I like a little bit lower let off, but the 85% is still rock solid on this. It doesn't just dump into it. It rolls into it nice and smooth, in my opinion. Again, I want to keep this more by the numbers than personal opinion, but it seems to have a really smooth draw cycle, just like last year's bow. And I think they made some really good upgrades. So, like I said, the biggest upgrade is in the cam here. They also put, it's kind of hard to see on this because this already has a rest, but if I zoom in right here, you can see this little like dovetail looking mount right there. So that's an integrated rest mount, kind of like the Verdicts had last year with the Matthews. You know, it's cool. So far, the only rest I know that they make with that bracket to mount on that is the QAD, like HDX Pro or whatever. It's a nice rest, but it's still a cable-driven fall away. I hate cable-driven fall aways. So until they start coming out with some limb-driven rests with that mounting bracket on it, the dovetail doesn't really do much for me. It's a cool feature. I think they're just kind of did that to keep up with, you know, competitors. But like I said, right now there's only 1 or 2 rests that I know of that have a bracket that can mount on that. Now, they say it's twice as strong as a normal mount. I've never had a rest move on me, so not really an issue for me. But, you know, like I said, down the road as they start to build more rests with that bracket, which I'm sure you're gonna see as more and more companies do this, you know, if there's a demand, if the bows can take the rest companies are gonna start producing them, especially when it's big name brands like Hoyt and Matthews. So kind of a cool feature there. In terms of geometry and the riser shape, it's very, very similar. There's a couple little differences in the bridges here and the riser, but pretty much the same as the RX3. You know, a lot of people were like, oh, they didn't change anything. They, you know, they came out with the same bow and just called it something different. And I'm not gonna disagree with that statement. I mean, they didn't make any huge changes. But honestly, the RX3 was one of the most successful platforms they've ever had. So they basically just listened to the consumer. Guys wanted a little more solid back wall. You know, they wanted some fit and finish things, just like new camos and stuff. So they came out with that. But the guts of the bow kind of stayed the same. You know, the cam is a little bit different cam. It's not the exact same cam. It's got a slightly different shape to it, but it's very similar. It has a real similar feel. I will say it's quieter. So we were shooting the Axius, which is the aluminum version earlier, and it's a really, really quiet bow. The carbon has a little more noise to it, just because it's lighter, and I don't think carbon dissipates sound as well. So I almost wouldn't say it's louder, but it's got a different noise. It's kind of got a to it when you shoot versus just that dull thwack. But it's still not loud by any means, especially if you're shooting a good weight hunting arrow. You won't have any problem with noise on this bow. So those are all the technical specs to it. I'm really excited to run this thing through the chronograph and see what it can do. Again, I'm shooting this right-handed. I am left-handed, so I say this every time, but I still get all these comments saying, you're punching the trigger, your anchor point sucks. It's like, yeah, I know, I'm shooting this wrong-handed. But the chronograph doesn't know that, so it's not gonna lie to me. It's gonna tell me what it's doing, and hopefully I can give you guys a good idea. So again, I'm gonna shoot 30 inches, I've got like a 509 grain arrow, a 475 grain arrow, a 445 grain arrow, a 420 grain arrow, and a 376 grain arrow. So full spectrum of weights there. And I'm gonna shoot it at 38 inches and 28 inches. This is making exactly 70 pounds. It actually came out of the box at 71 and a half. Usually they do that because they're expecting those cables to stretch a little bit on you, and then it'll actually stretch into spec at 70 pounds. But for this, I backed it down to exactly 70 pounds. So you're getting a true to spec number from the chronograph. So I'm gonna get over to the chronograph there, get it all set up, and we'll be right back. All right, so I'm at the chrono here. Got it set up, got my arrows. This is actually a really cool little thing that we just got in. This is made by War Torn Archery. It's a veteran-owned company, and this is what they call the pocket quiver. So you've probably been shooting in your backyard before, and you're sticking your arrows in your pocket, but they don't really stay very well. You know, or if you're at a 3D league, like you don't need a quiver full of stuff. You just need arrows on your persons. Well, this is awesome. So this actually goes right in your back pocket, just like this. And then you've got your arrows stuck right there. So I'll move this so you can see a little bit better. But you can see how it just goes right in your back pocket. Boom. And now I've got my arrows just right here. Keeps them out of the way. Other people aren't gonna be bumping into them if you're shooting league in like a really close proximity. So really cool product by them. Again, that's War Torn Archery. We sell them here at the shop. I don't know a lot of other places that have them. So give us a call, 541-746-9711. If you want to get one of these, they're like 30 bucks, all leather, super cool product. So there's my little plug. I actually need to stick this in my other pocket. Okay, so like I said, got the chronograph on. This first arrow, this is 509 grains. Again, this is 30 inches, 70 pounds, RX4 Ultra. That actually draws really nice. Even though this is right-handed, that draws really smooth. .271. So that's actually really impressive. 509 grain arrow going 271. That thing's gonna smash. This next one is a 475 grain arrow. .283. That went off a little quick on me. This next one is a 445 grain arrow. So 283 with a 475 grain arrow. I mean, that's cruising. That's actually faster. That's about what my Traverse is shooting. And I'm actually shooting a 490 grain arrow, but that's still quick. So this is a 445 grain arrow. .302. So that's like a really common hunting weight, right around 450 grains. So at 30 inches, 70 pounds, number 2 cam, you're over 300 feet a second. That arrow is gonna absolutely smash whatever it hits. You know, to be able to get that kind of speed and still get a long axle to axle, which I think aims a lot better, and a good brace height, which is really forgiving, I think that's quite the accomplishment. So this is a 418 grain arrow, basically a 420 grain arrow. .306, so not a huge jump actually. 302 to 306 with, it's only about 20 grains, but all right, so this is a 376 grain arrow. So this is gonna be one, you know, if you had just like a 3D arrow set up, this would be a real common weight. Oh, hang on. Gave me an error. It's too fast for the chronograph. Okay, so 476 grains. Excuse me, 376 grains. Whew, 325. So You know, that's an arrow that's 25 grains heavier than what the IBO arrow spec would be. So this bow probably shoots pretty close to what they're saying it would. You know, like I said, there's no governing body that tests these to actually say that. Usually Hoyt's pretty close. 325 with a 376 grain arrow is pretty darn good speed. So again, that was 30 inches, number 2 cam, 70 pounds. So pretty impressed. I'm actually less impressed with what it did with the light arrows than I am with what it did with the heavy arrows, which shows me that's a really efficient cam system. To shoot, you know, 270 feet a second with a 510 grain, 509 grain arrow, that's still really good speed, and that is a heavy arrow. That thing's gonna have a lot of kinetic energy and a lot of momentum when it hits. It's gonna just drive right through whatever it hits. So I'm gonna back this down to 28 inches, use the exact same arrows, shoot it through the same chronograph, and give you guys an idea of what this will do at a shorter draw length. All right, got this set to 28 inches, still 70 pounds. I've got the chrono set up here, so again, starting with a 509 grain arrow. 509, 28 inches, 70 pounds. Draws like butter at that draw length. 246, pretty respectable. Definitely not super fast, but most people at 28 inches aren't gonna be shooting a 500 grain arrow either. 475 grain arrows up next. $260, so pretty good jump there. This is a 445 grain arrow, so very common hunting weight here. It does have a really solid back wall too when it hits. I mean, there's no sponge there. 267, 418 grain arrow, 420 basically. $278, so almost 280. Not bad. And then last but not least, 376. So a lot lighter than you shoot for hunting, but $288, so almost 290. So there you have it. Both draw lengths, good speeds. Pretty much right about what I was expecting, to be honest. Again, I wasn't expecting a big jump in speed from last year. Those aren't the exact same arrows that I was shooting out of the RX3 Ultra. I'd have to go back and look and see what the speeds were. Also, I think I shot that one at 29 inches, not 30. But, you know, definitely respectable. I think most people shooting this bow are probably gonna have somewhere in that 28 to 32 inch draw length. Most guys with a little bit shorter draw lengths are probably gonna go with the Alpha, which is 29.5 inches. That review is coming next week. You know, personally, I just get along better with a longer to axle bow. If you haven't shot one, I would recommend trying it. The biggest thing for me is the string angle, especially in longer draw lengths. You know, if my finger is the string, let's say, and if I come back and that string angle is taken off from my face, even if the draw length is good, if that string angle is really, really steep on a short axle to axle, I gotta duck my head to kind of get in there, so I feel like I'm shooting kind of like this. I like to get my head, you know, nice and straight. Like if I'm just looking straight ahead and turn my head towards the target, I want that string angle to just boop, come right into my face right there. And with a longer axle to axle bow, that's what I get. So yeah, if you're local here in Oregon, come on by, check one of these out. We got a bunch in, more and more showing up every week for sale, but we've got at least one of every demo in. Again, they didn't change a ton, but they improved upon an already awesome platform. So if you like the RX3, you're gonna love the RX4, I'll put it that way. I think it's a really sweet shooting bow. I think it's a very, very accurate bow. Trent was shooting it earlier. So that's another thing I will say is that we literally set this bow up, timed it, just leveled the knock height, put the rest right through the burger hole. Trent shot a perfect bullet hole with it on the first shot. And then we sighted it in, and you know, Trent's a good shooter, so I trust his opinion on things. And I was watching him and he was literally putting it in, I mean, he had probably a 15 arrow group. He was shooting just one arrow at a time, and it was the size of a dime. I mean, he was literally putting it in the same hole over and over and over. And that's just with a little, 3-pin grinder sight. So definitely an accurate bow. Feel free to comment below if you have any comments or questions about this. Hopefully I covered everything you need. As usual, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us out. Until next time, keep them in the middle, and remember, precision is a decision.